This is my 2017 ND Miata RF, and I'm going to explain how you can carry boulder pads with this car. It's not easy, but it does work. A piece of advice that I would give you is if you travel more than an hour and a half or 2 hours to go anywhere on road trips, the vehicle is not fun. It is a blast to drive short distances, but on the highway, the seats are uncomfortable, the suspension is stiff, it is really loud above 60 miles per hour because in 6th gear, the engine's going to be running at 3,000 plus RPM. And at that note, the drone is just really bad. I have tinnitus, so it's just especially difficult for me. I did used to have a Mazda 3 hatchback, and I really miss that for my longer road trips, although of course it's not nearly as much fun. The first thing that you'll need is a hitch. I know there's some hidden hitches. I didn't go with one of those because I've heard that there can be some sort of wiggle in the hitch because it's two different pieces. So I went with the Curt hitch, which wasn't too expensive, and you can install it without even having to take the bumper off. Now you do have to drill out some of the frame holes if you don't want to take the bumper off. And I just didn't want to do that to my car. I'm sure it's safe. It doesn't look too difficult, but you can also just take the bumper off, which takes an hour or two, and then you can access, there are sort of these frame rails in the car where you can just reach in, and there's 4 bolts on this hitch, and they bolt up kind of underneath the frame rails that come out. And so when you take the bumper off, you can just reach into the rails and put, there's some sort of metal pieces that can have a nut that goes on top. And so I installed this hitch by myself, probably in 4 hours, taking my time. You might be able to do it in 2 or 3 if you're a good mechanic. And probably you could go with any 2 tray bike rack to carry your pad. I went with the 1-Up because it's made in the USA. It looks good. It's sturdy. You can buy all sorts of replacement pieces. I've been pretty happy with it. They're kind of expensive, but I think it's worth it. Now, one of the issues that you're going to have to deal with is if you put the pad on here, it's going to block your license plate. So you can buy the license plate attachment for this from 1-Up. I forget, it's not too much money, and it just goes on there. Now, when I was taking my license plate off of the car and putting it onto the license plate attachment on the rack, the plastic in the bumper stripped out. I think I found the best solution, and it is jack nuts. So I bought these I think it's quarter by 20 jack nuts, and this is really slick. It comes with this bit, and you don't even have to take the bumper off. I did have to cut the end of the bit off for this to work, but I started by drilling out here and here with a regular, like a small drill, and then I cut this off so that it wouldn't go too far in, and then I could drill it out far enough on each side for the jack nut to slip in. Once you get the jack nut in the whole way, there's this device that you just kind of screw in, and then it pulls the bolt out, and it cinches the jack nut against both sides of the plastic. So now whenever you take your license plate on and off, you have a metal part. You can take it, you can unscrew it and rescrew it in as many times as you want, and it's not going to strip. You just set the pad right on top of the rack. And what you want to do is cinch down all of the straps, because if you just leave these out, they're gonna flutter, especially if you're driving really fast. It'll actually wear out the nylon really fast, and it might sound annoying too. So just tuck in all the straps on your pad. Then you just need some cam buckle straps. I leave mine already looped up. That way it just makes it easier. I don't have to undo and redo them every time, and I keep these in my trunk. You just loop it around the rack and the pad and cinch that down. And I like to leave the cam buckle around the middle of the pad, or maybe a little bit up here. I'll show you why in a minute. All right, so I've got both straps on, and you can kind of pull the pad around and get it centered. You don't want the pad to touch the back of the car. It will scuff up the paint with all those highway miles. So that's why I make sure to leave the rack out. I think One Up says you can leave it out 4 inches max. So it's probably just out of the receiver by 2 inches, which is totally fine. And that gives you about 2 inches, 1 inch of clearance up at the bumper. Now you're just going to cinch these bad boys down. With the excess strap, you can just wrap that up. And again, if you leave it out and flapping, it'll wear out the strap. You can see this one I left out once, and it got pretty worn in just a couple hours of driving. So you want to wrap that up. You can slip it under and then kind of pull it tight where it's not going to move around. So there we go. All the straps are tightened up and it doesn't touch the car. It fits nice on the rack. And you're going to bolt your license plate here. Now, the main issue I haven't really solved yet is the license plate light. I bought this cheap solar powered light, and it doesn't work as well as I'd like. It doesn't leave very much room to mount the plate underneath it either. And I even had to, this clips on with some plastic, at least the one I bought does, and that broke really quickly on me. So I actually took some metal and fabricated some parts to mount it to the license plate. But it just sometimes it shuts off automatically, and I'm just not happy with it. Maybe there's a way that you could rig up a light mount on the side. On One Up site, you can buy a brake light and license plate light thing that would work awesome, but it does have to kind of plug into a wiring harness that's wired into the car, and I just didn't want to go to all that hassle. So I'm going to be looking for better license plate light mount options. If anybody has kind of figured this out, let me know. So you might be asking, well, can I carry 2 pads? And technically you can strap 2 pads to the back of the Miata. However, what happens is now you can't see your lights. However, you can buy a organic or some other brand, a half-size pad. This is the organic briefcase pad. And I could also put this underneath my cam buckle straps and it wouldn't interfere with the lights. And that's about all you can fit. You could probably put a small or a thin trifold pad. I had a Metolius Magnum and it probably covered, the the lights about halfway, which I just wasn't happy with. So if you have a thinner trifold, that would probably work. Another thing I like about this organic briefcase pad is that it is small enough that it fits nicely in the trunk. And actually I can fit a couple bags, a backpack and my food bag underneath this pad, and it'll just fit in the trunk. Now, another nice thing about the briefcase pad is it fits easily in the passenger side. You could probably stack 2 of these in the passenger side, or you can put 1 or 2 in the passenger side and then another one in the trunk, or even another one on your rack. So, you know, that gives you a little extra options as well. And you might be wondering, well, can I fit a full-size pad in the passenger side? Let's see. Unfortunately, no matter how you try to fit it in there, the pad really does not fit, especially with the roof up or even the roof down. It doesn't fit in the passenger side. I mean, I wouldn't drive like this. It's going to totally obstruct your view. It's just too big.
That's what she said.
Another option that might work, but I haven't tried, is you might be able to buy a luggage carrier that mounts to the back, and that may work to strap a bouldering pad to a luggage pad, because it kind of does fit nicely up on top of the rear trunk lid. You can fit 2 pads kind of the long ways on the rear rack, and it might block the lights a little bit. It might, I don't know if you could get away with it. It might block the license plate view a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell with the camera having a wider angle lens. And then you could strap crosswise across this. It would stick out a good bit. I probably wouldn't do it unless it was like a really short trip, but just something to consider. It may work.